All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to VHP Engines. Well, hopefully, welcome back. Anyway, so I'm currently uploading my ridiculously long fucking video up here, and I decided that during the filming of that, I finally got motivated enough to shoot this fucking video that I have been talking about making since before I started the channel. It's a rant. It's a rant video. But to not be ranty about it, I'm going to do it in the form of a story. And well, of course, I'm talking about the Rod Knock. And the guys who like to say, or selling an engine had a knock or a slight knock, and I'm selling it. All you need to do is polish the crank and you're good to go. That is fucking foolishness. That is nonsense. You do not polish your crank. I'm going to put pictures. I'm going to put pictures in here somewhere. I'm going to put pictures in here. And they're probably already up by this point. Of a destroyed rod journal. And what the bearing looks like from that destroyed rod journal. And then just ask yourself, do you really think that that kind of damage can be polished, rubbed out easily? It goes away. No, it don't. When you're dealing with journal clearances, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of an inch. You're talking about measurements the size of a cunt hair. The damages that you see on that journal are much thicker and larger than cunt hairs. All right. So there are two kinds of people. There are the kinds of people who are ignorant to the fact of what damage you can do from just a little bit of a knock here. And then there's the people who know better and are just saying that to try and sell you their garbage at a stupidly high price for garbage. And if you're one of those guys, fuck you, dude. You're the problem with the automotive game there. All right. If you're not one of those guys and you don't understand or you didn't realize, let me just tell you like this in a little story here. Because, I mean, now, you could be arguing that, hey, well, how do I know that my knock for just 2 or 3 minutes here caused that much damage? It was just a little bit of time. Or, I thought I heard a knock and I drove home on it, but then after I drove home, I never ran on it again. So we're going to go into a hypothetical here. Like I said, I promised you a story time. This is going to be some story time. Now, I'm not very great at math, so we're going to keep the numbers all even here. But you'll still get the gist of what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the most perfect of circumstances here. Let's just say one day you get up, you never had a problem before with your car. You go to your car, you turn it on, and you hear a little at startup. So it's enough, you know your car good. So you're like, what is that? What the hell is that sound? Is that a knock? So in the meantime, your engine usually idles around 800 RPMs. But because I told you I'm not good at math, and we're going to do solid even numbers here, we'll just bump it up just a tiny little bit. We'll go to 1,000 RPMs. All right? Now, you're sitting in your car. You hear the little noise. You think maybe that's a knock. So you're sitting there, and while you're thinking this to yourself, it's been about, let's say, 30 seconds. So in those 30 seconds, your engine is rotated 500 times. 500 times. 500 times you've had rotation. High speed rotation. All right. So now you're sitting there and you're listening to it. What do you do? When you think you hear a knock, what do? You rev the gas pedal a little bit. You hear it accelerate to see like all right. So let's just say, you know, you revved it up to 2,000 RPMs and you did that a couple times. So we'll do it at half speed there. We'll just say another 500 RPMs. So you sit there for about a minute. You've got 1,000 times that this engine's turned over. 1,000 times. Just 1 minute you're sitting there. What's the next step of your investigation that you do? Pop the hood. So you pop the hood and you go outside and you listen to your car and you lean over and you hear it. And you're not 100% sure about what you're hearing. You want to be really sure about you being a knock and not something else. So what do you do again? You reach over to that throttle body because you're a car guy and you know you can just turn the throttle body by hand and You need to rev it up a little bit without having to go back in the car or have somebody do it for you. So you're out there and you're leaning forward and you rev that motherfucker a couple times. So you hear it again, it's loud. Fuck, it's something there, it's persistent. Now you go turn off your car. So let's just say, rough estimate of the couple of minutes that you've sat here and done all this shit, it's been 2 or 3 minutes. It will give you a light estimate of 10,000 rotations per minute, or 10,000 rotations total in that time that you've done it. So you've got 10,000 times that crank has spun inside that engine with that loose fucking bearing. 10,000 times. All right, so what do you do now? What's the next step after you doing everything you can do to confirm it? You call a homeboy, that's what you fucking do. You call up your friend, tell him, damn man, I'm hearing this fucking noise. I might be a knock. I don't know if it's a knock. What do I do? So you take a video. You do all that shit that you just did again on camera for your guy to see, because you need an answer right now. You need to be sure. So bump that up again. That's 20,000 times your shit spun. Now your friend, what the fuck is your friend do? Your friend decides, I'm not sure on video if that's a knock or not. So he's going to come over to your house. And he's going to do the same shit you did. Again. So now you're looking at, again, this is a safe estimate, safe estimate. And it likely is more than what it really has been that I'm thinking. And let's say 30,000 times you've spun metal on loose metal inside your crank. Bearings that would normally never actually make contact with your crank have now been forcibly ground against it 30,000 times. 30,000 times. 30,000 times. 30,000 times. And your homeboy confirms you have a knock. Take the engine out. You go to sell it. Hey, it just needs to be polished. You can see from the picture that I showed, what kind of damage you're looking at. And that crank in that engine fooled me. It fooled me. I really thought that was going to be a good crank. Had very clean and smooth rotation. Didn't have any idea that it was going to be fucked up until I took the oil pan off and saw the metal. And even then, I was still a little hesitant to believe that that was a fucking knocking motor. Every once in a while, you will get, best case scenario like this situation, and you will get that, and you will have still catastrophic failure, because that's all it is. Catastrophic failure. 100,000ths of an inch. Even if you get somebody to cut this crank for you, the chances are you're going to have to cut so much off to make it usable that there isn't a size that they make for it that's not like ridiculously thick. So, so it's good. It's safe to say that you have to toss that fucking crank out the window. That's a fucking paperweight. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can always go out and get another crank. But I fucking absolutely hate for the people who know this shit to misrepresent it. There's a difference between polishing and cutting. There's completely different things. Polish is just, like I've said on my build videos, it just takes out the little tiny imperfections, the things that are so, that you wouldn't normally barely even notice, just to, make everything clean and perfect across the board. Cutting is literally you're cutting material off the crank to smooth it back out. You can see in the damage on a damage journal that it's like a trough, because the bearing smushes out. So it goes into like a dip like this. So you have chunk of raised pieces of crank up here and a low bias. So you have to bring all that shit down. That's a lot of material to take off. And you're looking at like 10,000ths of an inch when they cut over, or 0.025, stuff like those measurements along that lines. Even with that, it's still doubtful that you're going to be able to save that. And there's surprisingly, well, from my experience, a few shops out there that actually will even turn your crank, cut your crank for you. So your best chances are you're looking for a new crank, which again I said is fine, but it's just bad for people who know better to misrepresent this shit and tell people they can just go rub this fucking out and they'll be able to use that crank again. That's ridiculous. Can't do that. And for you guys who have some fucking delusion in your head that don't want to believe that, what really makes you think you can rotate that shit? You can grind metal on top of metal 30,000 fucking times and you can polish that out, buff it out, and it'll be fine. Let's just buff it out real quick. No, you can't. You can't buff it out and be good with it. It's going to be fucking trashed. All right, now, there's plenty of people, even like myself. I was one of these people like 3 or 4 years ago who was, didn't understand that. I was misled by other people to believe that you could just give it a shine and you'll be good to go again, and that's definitely not the case. But now that I told you the hypothetical is the best case scenario. What normally happens when this shit happens the way it does? You don't just wake up and go outside and you have a knocking engine. That's not the case. Usually what happens is you're fucking around your car, you misshift, you're erasing all the oil, whatever the case may be. Usually you are in the car when it starts to knock. And when you're in the car and it starts to knock, you're going to do what most people, even myself, I would do the same fucking thing. I'm not stopping and paying for a tow man to come get it. The motor's already gone, so you're going to drive it home. So if you manage to get home without fucking completely throwing the rod out the block, the chances are you spun it shit millions of fucking times inside that engine is turned over since you've limped your way home and you've shredded that crank all to hell. So this is mainly a video just to inform some of you guys out there who are looking for used engines. If you ever see somebody selling a crank or an engine with a rod knock and they're just trying to tell you, oh, you need to polish and all that shit, why the fuck do you think they're not doing it themselves? Because it's not that simple. And then even then, if you confront somebody and ask them about it, they'll most likely be like, oh, because I don't have the time to take it apart and rebuild it. No. Or, oh shit, I almost fucking forgot. The absolute worst of the worst of these people, and this is usually the people who know, they'll be like, oh, it's got a rod knock, it spun a bearing, so what you just need to do is put a new set of bearings in there. Oh my god. Fucking millions of rotations grinding on fucking metal, 100,000ths of an inch of clearance, and you think you can just slap a new fucking set of bearings and go. Absolutely not. You're going to definitely spin that bearing 110% of the time. It's going to spin right the fuck up again. Voop. Because that journal's damage is not going to, the fluids in between the bearing shell and the crankshaft are just not going to hold at all with that kind of damage. I've gone, every once in a while I've done like some fine shit where, it's a little iffy because your bearings on your journals are really supposed to be perfect for your crank. And I've done a little bit of iffy shit one time with a little bit of a crease, so, cut in there, and I've polished it up a little bit by hand and let it go, and it was fine. But, bearing failure in an engine, the entire fucking journal is getting ate up all the way around, all the way across. You're not saving that one. It just ain't gonna happen. Anyway, this is to raise awareness for you guys out there who are buying used engines on Craigslist or Facebook. It is cool that at least that person can tell you that, or they are telling you that it's got a spun bearing, but just, reason with them a little bit. Hey, that crank is no good. I'm gonna have to. That really sucks. I was hoping to do a one take and upload this directly from the phone, or directly onto the computer, not have to edit, but whatever, fuck, got interrupted, whatever, gotta go with it. So, the whole point being is hopefully you can talk to the guy and reason with him a little bit. Hey, I gotta toss out the crank, so I'm pretty much, buying just a block with extra pieces in it that may or may not be fucked up, because it is possible to fuck up the rods too. I mean, especially if you've driven on it long after the knock started, there's a good chance that you've mushroomed out that rod too. So anyway, hopefully you can bring that to their attention there. Attention, fuck's sake. And you bring that to their attention and talk to them, and maybe you can get a better price out of it. Personally, I've bought bad engines between $50 to $100. Never really paid more than $100, and usually I think I even out about $50 to $80. And that's simply because the good thing for me on buying bad engines was that when I was in Florida, I was buying engines all the time, like buying them. It got to the point now where people were coming to me to sell the engines before they would even post them, because they knew I bought bad blocks. And even if I wasn't looking, I would always buy one, to the point where I had like 7 or 8 engines on the fucking side waiting to be built at any given time. And I would eventually like to one day get back to that. Especially, I'm going to need to get back to that if I'm going to open my online store like I want to, or even just a shop locally for building engines. But anyway, yeah, I would never really pay out more than $50 to $100. There's a lot of guys on here that you guys thinking, oh, I want to go build an engine, so let me buy a bare block. Now, to be honest with you, a fair price for a bare block is $50. But because I like to buy bad engines and I get those for $50 to $80, I don't buy bare blocks. That's a waste of money. You buy a bare block, yeah, you have the block ready to just be assembled. But if I buy a long block that's bad, I have a head, which I probably won't even use, but I'll have as a surplus. I had fucking like 6 LS heads sitting around at all times. And fucking hardly ever used any of them. So you have a head that you have a surplus on the side that you can use either for parts, or you can just sell the head. Or you can break them all down, sell pieces from the head, the valve cover, the oil cap, the valve springs, the valves themselves, the retainers, the rocker arms, the studs that hold the manifolds. There's a lot of money on these fucking parts here that people just they don't consider. Same thing with the block. If you ever, I know I'm fucking going off topic here, but if you ever get yourself an engine that you got a hole in a block or something, and you think it's complete trash. It's not. There's still a lot of things that you can take off that engine block that you can either resell or reuse. So also be mindful in that when you're buying a blown motor. And that's can be something you can keep your eyes out for too. If you're somebody that's like me who is interested in mass producing or mass rebuilds and want to do that as a hobby, or you want to do it to make money, look for those things. Look for those things that you see out there. As a matter of fact, you know what? I think I'm going to stop there, and that's going to be a whole separate video. Thanks guys for watching this shit. If you felt it was helpful or informative anyway, give it a fucking thumbs up. Share it. Feel free to share it. As a matter of fact, this is the only video that I've ever made that I want fucking people to share the shit out of. Go to those fucking Honda Facebook groups and share the fuck out of it there, because there's a lot of people who are just fucking scammy assholes that need to be exposed. And there's also a lot of people that just need to be informed. So, feel free to comment below. In the description below, you're going to have the links to my social media. You can hit me up directly if you want to. You got any questions for me? If I answer back with a video, it's just because it's something I've already answered a lot. And, yeah, just watch that and then hit me up again if you still have questions, and I'll answer anything that you have new. All right, guys. Appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. Peace.